My experience of learning language and literacy as a child. Hello everyone, my name is Rakshya, born and brought up in a beautiful landlocked country, Nepal. I consider myself privileged when I reflect back and see the learning opportunities I received as a child. Today, I'd like to share some of those experiences which I strongly believe had helped form a solid base for my language and literacy. Growing up in the 90s, my learning happened in the most natural settings where humans' physical involvement was crucial. As opposed to today's generation in many homes, that essence is fading with extreme engagements with technologies and modern devices. Nevertheless, considering that it to be an improvisation on methods and styles of learning, for today my focus will remain on my introduction to oral language. Both my parents are Nepali, yet my house had a great language mix of two nations, India and Nepal. My father was born and brought up in India and was a multilingual. He spoke Nepali, Hindi, Khasi, and English and was proficient in all. Nepali because it was his mother tongue, Hindi because he grew up in India, Khasi because it was a local language of his community in India, and English because he was an English teacher by profession. My mother came from another part of Nepal, where Nepali language itself was spoken with minor distortions and variations. In addition to these, our prayers were in Sanskrit, another exploration itself. This for us, ironically, was challenge and an opportunity both at the same time. The love for music and dance was evident in my family. My father was a performer, my mother an excellent companion, and we were the audience to our parents' act. My father used to sing songs in different languages. John and Goldstein, 1964, stated that children surrounded with sea of words will eventually acquire gestures, intonations, and dialect of those besides just learning the nouns, verbs, and phrases of the language. This is so true in my case too. My mother would hum early morning prayers in Sanskrit. We, for initial years, just learned to copy her, not really understanding what it meant. But later, we learned to put meanings to the word. An example is when my mother said the word Prabhu, she joined her both hands and had her head bowed down. Later, we understood that the word was referred to the god and it was a gesture seeking blessings. Moreover, as a Nepali speaker, I still could identify the intonation variations when I could hear native speakers speak Hindi and English on television and radio. My father had a shift in his accent when he spoke all those languages. When he spoke English, we felt he sounded very different. Out of all the languages spoken at our house, English was the most foreign. The origin of Hindi and Nepali is Devanagari, hence a lot of resemblance, but English was something that came with unique features and nuances, and the same language became even more confusing when we started to school a social influence because not everyone in Nepal spoke English the same way. The pronunciation due to the phonetic sounds of the same English words very different from a Nepali speaker who is very competent compared to those who are less competent in the language. To us, the same language was a realm to discover. My father spoke English almost like a native speaker, with small details perfectly pitched. Perhaps that was his years of practice into the oral language as opposed to our primary teachers. However, we eventually learned that the same language could have variation in accent and intonation, but the meaning does not change. So we started learning a language, trying to understand the meaning than the accent itself. According to Fellows and Oakley 2014, nurturing oral language development is central to early childhood education and care. Humans, being a social animal, will have the utmost desire and need to connection through languages and communicating. Similar is with the young children. It was easier for us as a child to born with someone who we could share an effective oral communication. Therefore, during the initial exposure to English language, we often only try to talk to our mother. I remember we used to escape coming to phone when my father would call us due to the fear of not knowing. We felt we were more expressive in Nepali than English. With English, we learned the language in a receptive nature. We learned repeatedly to form meanings and decode the language. Overall, it is understood how the society and family settings can help a child face variety of learning experience to language and literacy.